My name is Bill Marler. I'm a food safety lawyer and have been for the last 30 plus years, and am the proud publisher of Food Safety News. Yeah, the CDC just updated their numbers today, and the Canadian health authorities updated their numbers a few weeks ago. So total, there are 571 culture confirmed cases in the U.S. and Canada. There are over 400 in the U.S. There are 219 people who've been hospitalized, 60 of those in Canada. And there's unfortunately been 13 deaths, seven in the US and six in Canada. It appears that it began towards the end of October of 2023. The last reported case is December 25th, so Christmas Day. Whether or not there are going to be additional cases, I am hopeful not. Cantaloupe is a perishable product, so by now we would hope to see that both whole cantaloupe are off the shelves and off the market because there has been a recall. But also, more importantly, a lot of cut cantaloupe and cut fruit medleys have been produced. Hopefully that's off the market as well. And hopefully we don't see any more illnesses, but I think you'll see some continue to straggle in as more cases are counted. This outbreak seems to be a much more severe illness. It's pretty unusual to have over half of the people hospitalized, or nearly half of the people hospitalized, but also to see, 13 deaths. I think if you look kind of at the numbers, that the numbers of ill people really kind of are in the very young category and the very old category. So that really might account, frankly, for the sort of abnormal hospitalization and unfortunate deaths that we're seeing in this outbreak. It just may be hitting the most vulnerable populations. Both Canada and the US are involved with the international PulseNet database. So they're sharing things in real time when they get illnesses, especially when Canada believes it has come in from the United States or another foreign country. They're coordinating, both their response and their recalls quite and probably the most close-knit relationship we have in public health. So they've been coordinating this from the get-go. Canada was frankly the first to come forward with illnesses reported, and also for the recall. United States followed shortly thereafter, but they have been coordinating their activities since then. It appears that although imported by a U.S. company from Mexico and also exported into Canada, the traceback has been fairly clear. We know that the cantaloupes were produced in Mexico. The Malachita and Ruby brands are sort of the ones that have been most frequently, those are the whole cantaloupes. But really, frankly, cut cantaloupes at a variety of stores throughout the United States and Canada have been implicated. So I would urge consumers to go to, in the US, to go to the FDA recall site, and in Canada to the CFIA site to see exactly what's been recalled. And again, if you have cantaloupe and you don't know where it's come from, especially if it's cut cantaloupe, my advice to consumers is just to throw it out until it's very clear this outbreak is over, or that the cantaloupe did not come from Mexico. I've unfortunately done a lot of cantaloupe salmonella cases and was actually involved in the Listeria cantaloupe outbreak in the US in 2011 that sickened 148 people, but sadly also killed over 30. And it was the largest US death toll linked to any food product for a long, long time. And so cantaloupe has been, a high risk item for a long period of time. Interestingly, in the movie Poison, the documentary Poison, a lot of the people when asked, what they don't eat, and one of the things was cantaloupe, and especially cut cantaloupe. So the risks are there. People have a right to be compensated, for their medical bills and wage loss. It's difficult, if not impossible, to compensate people for the loss of a loved one. But that's another thing that can happen in litigation. For me, the most important thing is to try to figure out how this happened and why. So we can make sure that this doesn't happen again. I think the best thing that people can do is, wash the exterior of the cantaloupe thoroughly. There's a lot of good information on the internet about even dipping cantaloupe after you wash it into hot water to try to kill or lessen the amount of salmonella. But cantaloupe is a tough fruit to clean because of the real rough exterior. So I think washing the exterior cantaloupe is the most prudent thing to do. Cutting off the exterior before you plunge the knife into it to cut it up is also a good practice. And to me, the most important thing to do is eat it quickly. Don't let it sit in your refrigerator, because if there is salmonella in it, it'll grow yeah, even at refrigerator temperatures. And certainly don't leave cantaloupe out, cut cantaloupe out on your, countertop. The humans, even people who are, young and the elderly, our immune systems are, generally pretty robust. And we can fight back, some salmonella and not get so sick. Where people get really sick is when that cantaloupe has grown salmonella for a few days, and then, their people's immune systems are overwhelmed by the amount of salmonella. So, you know, washing it, being careful about how you cut it, and eating it promptly are about the best things that consumers can do to protect themselves with whole cantaloupe. It's much more problematic, when you're buying cantaloupe that's cut in a grocery store, for convenience sake. There's not anything you can do other than don't buy it. Underreporting is pretty prevalent in salmonella outbreaks. The CDC says that for every one person counted, so here over 500, there are about 40 people who are not counted. So you do the math, that's, over 20,000 people likely got some salmonella in them, whether they were sick enough to go to the doctor, whether the doctor did a stool culture. But the only cases that are actually reported are people who were sick enough to go to the doctor, get a stool culture, and that stool culture came back positive for salmonella and was reported to state or province health authorities and then tabulated by the federal governments in each country. I think this is, another unfortunate outbreak linked to cantaloupe. I mean, we haven't had one for a few years, but in the 2000s we saw a lot of them, and a lot of them linked to salmonella. I think it just makes it clear that we still have a long way to go to prevent foodborne illness, and that international working with our partners in Mexico, Canada, and the U.S. to have a safe food supply is going to be a continuing challenge.